What do you think when you hear Canada's capital, Ottawa? Beautiful Parliament Hill, the amazing Rideau Canal, fancy building of the National Gallery of Canada, and a bunch of other stuff. I've never been there and don't know much about that city. But Ottawa and Canada are more than all that. There's a lot of mystery and secrets around them. And the main thing is, why the hell is Ottawa called like this? And why does it sound so Japanese? First, let's just look at the name itself. The Ottawa tourism website says, the Ottawa region's identity has been influenced by many cultures, including First Nations, French, English, Scottish, and Irish. They probably forgot to mention Japanese here as well. The city's name is derived from the Algonquin word Odawa, which means to trade. So according to this official explanation, the word Ottawa comes from the Algonquin language group, which had around 30 languages and were spoken mostly in Canada and some parts of the United States. This is an Algonquin Indian, and this is Japan's indigenous people, the Ainu. Now look closely at them. Their eyes and noses are strikingly similar to those of Algonquin people. Also, both groups love tattooing their faces. Coincidence? I don't think so. Another reason Ottawa sounds Japanese is because of Okinawa Prefecture. The names sound incredibly similar. But also look at the map. It could take Japanese indigenous just to cross Pacific Ocean by boat, and that's it. They are in the land of Canada now. Okinawa Island is warm, and there are a lot of sunny days out there. When they reached the cold, snowy Canadian coast, they had to warm themselves, probably hunted birds, and used feathers as clothes. What is interesting is that Japan also has a little town called Ottawa, located in Hoi District in Aichi Prefecture. Let's dive into language. The name Ottawa sounds similar to certain Japanese words or places. For example, Ottawa sounds somewhat like otaku, a Japanese term for someone obsessed with anime or manga, or Ottawa could be misheard as Ottawa, sounding like a Japanese word in certain accents. So we know that Ottawa from one of the Algonquin languages means to trade, but if we translate it from Japanese to English, we actually get nothing. So let's delete one letter T and separate the word. Now we get I'm an otaku. Okay, now let's get the T letter back and leave the separation. Now we get I followed him. The thing is getting interesting now. Why the hell Ottawa in Japanese means that? And who do they actually followed, and who were the ones who followed? I have an assumption that these Japanese indigenous followed each other at the time of the Great Relocation, and that is why they decided to call the city Ottawa, because it is the city of Japanese followers. It's all starting to make sense. Japan isn't just linked to Ottawa. Let's talk about Canada itself. To prove this, let's look what Canada name came from. Official website of the Government of Canada says, the name Canada likely comes from the Huron-Iroquois word Kanata, meaning village or settlement. Now the things get wild because when we translate the Japanese word Kanoto, we get this place. People from Okinawa who traveled all the way through Pacific Ocean and tried not to drown there, claimed the country as that place, meaning the place where they desperately were looking for. Let's move to the International Work Group for Indigenous Affairs website, where it says that Okinawans comprise several groups of indigenous languages with different cultural features. Although there has been some migration of ethnic Japanese to the islands, and it also says that the Japanese government does not recognize the inhabitants of Okinawa as indigenous. So, with that being texted, the relocated Japanese might travel back to Japan at one time because they did not like the cold weather in Canada. At that point, it's so hard to tell what actually happened back then and what's the truth behind it all, but let's investigate it a bit deeper. If we look at the Ojibwe syllabics, which is a branch of the Algonquian language family, we can see these cool-looking characters they used that kinda look like Japanese ones in hiragana and katakana, but the most interesting character is this guy. This is a she syllable and it looks exactly like cha or ja in Ojibwe. Also, both languages use syllables in their writing systems, which is another huge sign of the similarities between these two regions. If you want to get more info, there is a whole thread in Quora about the link between Japanese and Native American languages. If you still think that all of this information is not enough to believe that Ottawa is actually a Japanese word and Japan made a huge influence in Canada, then here is another thing. Ottawa has a Rideau River, which flows north from Upper Rideau Lake and empties into the Ottawa River at the Rideau Falls. Officially, the name of this river was given by Samuel de Champlain, who was the first European to have seen the river, named it Rideau, French for curtain, due to the resemblance between Rideau Falls and a curtain. But come on guys, should we really believe in this? If we translate the word Ryudo from Japanese to English, we can see that it means flow. That's crazy. So was the river really named by a Frenchman? Or did it have Japanese influence all along? Let's dive even deeper than that. Before we move on, let's look at some numbers. First, there was Bytown, founded in 1826, and 2 years later it was named after Colonel John By. In 1855, Bytown changed its name to Ottawa when it was incorporated as a city. Okay, now let's see when Japanese migration was started. According to Wikipedia, Japanese migration to Canada began in the 1800s and was quite strong until restrictions were put in place at the turn of the century. Japanese migrants even got a whole neighborhood in Vancouver called Japantown. And, what's interesting, some of these Japanese migrants returned to Japan after World War II. That clearly explains why the Japanese government didn't consider the Okinawan inhabitants as indigenous. Perhaps they were different after returning from North America, or they might have simply been seen as betrayers of Japan. So if it's true that the first Japanese migration to Canada began in the 1800s, then it's obviously another strong reason why Bytown was renamed Ottawa in 1855 and why it sounds so Japanese. 2 years after renaming, Queen Victoria made Ottawa the capital of Canada. This is Naha, the capital of the Okinawa Island. The name comes from its original name, Naba, which was the name of a large, mushroom-shaped stone in the city. But that's what they told us, and we are not so stupid, right? There is a beautiful Nahanni National Park Reserve in the Decho region of the Northwest Territories in Canada, but it's also known as Valley of Headless Men. Dean people were the local indigenous population here, and this is how they looked like. Along with Dean tribe, there was also a Naha tribe, who used to viciously raid settlements of Dean people. At one point, they got tired of it. The Dean fetched their warriors and then lay in wait until nightfall, preparing their attack. In the middle of the night, they surrounded the Naha settlement on all sides, sneaking closer and ready to strike. Once they were right alongside the teepees, they hurriedly threw open the tent flaps, weapons at the ready, and no one was inside. Silence. Fires were smoldering, sleeping bags were laid out, but there wasn't a single human around. They had disappeared completely. From this time, there are lots of myths and mysteries around this place and the Naha tribe, and there are also some books out there about this mysterious place. That all brings us back to the capital of Okinawa, which, perhaps, had a key role in the Northwest Territories in Canada. A little fact, Canada and Japan have similar colors in their flags, white and red. Moreover, Japan has big red dot in the middle of their flag, symbolizing the sun, while Canada also used red symbol in the middle of their flag, but they put big red leaf instead, symbolizing nature. I think this is not so important. But red symbol in the middle, same energy, same colors. Just saying. At the end, I want you to look at the small, but highly suspicious detail. If you Google Ottawa sounds Japanese, in the first page you will see wait, what? That man probably knows something. But we need to go to the official website of the Ottawa Japanese Community Association. When we open it, right in the main page we can see that there is a video of a man singing an Okinawan song. Not joking. I don't want to play it now due to the copyright, but if you want, you can go to their website and check it out by yourself. There were a lot of interesting things going on around the name Ottawa, and it would take hours to explain and investigate all the relations between Canada and Japan, but I think it's enough to be true that Ottawa is the Japanese word, and if you still think Ottawa isn't a Japanese word and Japan didn't influence Canada in weird and mysterious ways, I don't know what to tell you. Hey Ify, our country is getting bigger and bigger, and I want to thank each one of you for your support. Leave a like and write down in the comments. What do you think about Ottawa and all this conspiracy between Japan and Canada? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.